Kathleen Ridge spent her human resources career in corporate America, hotly debating what constituted exceptional performance, who got promoted, and which names and when on the layoff list. Now she is a human resources consultant and a business and career coach for professionals and presidents. She writes a monthly executive coach column for Florida Today's About Me section and a human resource column for Space Coast Business Magazine. And it's really awesome. I highly recommend that if you get a chance to get those magazines, to read them, because she really has some really good articles. She's co-author of Looking for the Good Stuff, a guide to enjoying and appreciating life, the book PBS gave to their national conference participants, and I believe those are out there in the lobby that you can get from her. She has some special offerings for you guys today on her book and 3 teleseminars. She has Stupid Mistakes Even Smart Women Make, How to Brag Without Boosting, Shameless Self-Promotion, which all of us need to learn. I mean, that's really been key. How to Win and Have Your Competition Love You. And on a fun note, one New Year's Eve in Dallas, she and her husband won a dance contest on the Prairie Home Companion radio show. So, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
Thank you. So, obviously, I'm on. Thank you. How many of you have ever asked the question, why can't I hold a focus? You know, the kind of question where you finally put a sticky on your finger and you follow it into the other room because you've already gone there 3 times before, and once you got there, you forgot while you were there? Or is that just me? It's a question I wanted answered, and so I did what everyone does. I went out on the internet. You know, where you go to Google and you want to research something, and 7 minutes later you realize that you've read a second article that has nothing to do with what you're researching. So what I found is there's really 3 keys on why we lose focus. The first one is technology. Carol was a brilliant example of this, where she talked about, I can't be on the phone because emails come over on her PDA, and then she starts answering those instead of talking on the phone. So with technology, you open your email and you're looking at a hot stock tip right next to the thigh cream, and then buried in there is an email from your customer or from your employees. They really need to talk with you. So it's leveled the priorities. We now don't have a way to sort out what's important and what's urgent from everything else that's hitting with us. We can now watch TV on our phones thanks to iPhone, and there's more phones coming like that. So what does that mean? That means it's just very hard to be focused on what is urgent and important in our lives, whether it's family or getting the job done. Commercial messages. Now, by commercial messages, what I mean is you pick up your Crest toothpaste and you put it on your Braun electric toothbrush, and you look at your Rolex watch, Timex watch, and those are all commercial messages. So those are messages that are coming into us every day. It's also called branding. There was a research that was done for for Pac Bell. What they showed is in 1992, the average American received 2,000 commercial messages a day. 2 years later, it had increased by 50%. 3,000 commercial messages a day. Fast forward 2002, 30,000 commercial messages a day. Average American. A 10-fold increase in 8 years. Scary number. The number of 30-second commercials that children will see in an average year, 20,000. So we have all of this information coming in without priority, without context on how it's going to help our life or how it's going to help us get our job done better. The third reason, the world is just more complex. The weekly section of the New York Times contains more information that you would have ever come across in your life if you were in 17th century England. Now that's a long time ago. But think about this. In the last 20 years, and take a minute and think about how old you were 20 years ago, In the last 20 years, information has doubled. I'm sorry, that's wrong. In the last 20 years, more information has been created than in the last 2,000 years. So think about how old you were 20 years ago. The information in the world has doubled. Has increased more than it was more in the last 2,000 years. So this is where the doubling comes into play. The store of human knowledge doubles every 5 years. Well, you think about it. There's over 1 million websites being created each day. We've got 3. PDA, cell phones, now television on your cell phone. All of that allows for more creativity. The blogs that were talked about earlier. Did you ever wonder why you're losing focus now? So that's part of it. And that's all what's going on a normal day. So when a crisis hit, even if no one died, let's say you lost a key contract that you needed to make payroll, or a critical employee has told you that they're leaving, or you've really made a stupid mistake, then everything starts to lose focus. So you're going to learn how to refocus your energy in your mind, how to break the fear factor. You know, the factor that when something happens and you have the sinking feeling in your stomach, and suddenly all hope seems to vanish, and it gets cold, kind of like the Dementors in Harry Potter. And how to create a structure that's going to help you hold your focus. A lot of people don't succeed is because the structure around them isn't set up to help them be able to keep their focus and to move forward. So we're going to look at the first one, how to refocus your energy and mind. Just like Carol talked about, just like Darlene talked about, is you have to have a clear vision. You have to be very aware of why you started your business, why you chose your career, why you're in that job. Because you have to reconnect to the internal stuff, the juice that got you started, so that you will start to move forward again. Let me give you an example of the power of vision. It's from one of my favorite books. The date was May 25th, 1961. It was just 20 days after astronaut Alan Shepard had a brief flight in space that made him the first American in space. President John F. Kennedy addressed a joint session of Congress, and he said, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before the decade is out of landing a man on the moon and safely returning him to Earth." Now, some of the theorists thought without Kennedy's bold vision, which ignited the imagination of the nation, and without that clear focus, because, by the way, the rocket scientists were pretty stunned because we weren't doing very well at the time, we may not have ever gone to the moon. And instead, July 20th, 1969, 8 years, 2 months after Kennedy's challenge, the announcement came from Apollo 11. The Eagle has landed. That's the power of vision that you need to find inside to be able to move forward in the situation of any crisis. Now, some of you are brilliant in crisis. As soon as a crisis happens, you absolutely are focused, and that is the only thing that exists. And a lot of people's lives, it's a shutdown. They don't know what to do. So what happens is you get the knot in the stomach. Your throat starts to get tight. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your body contracts under stress. So you've heard this before, sit up straight, put your shoulders back, chin up, look confident, walk into the room as if you own it, regardless of how you feel. In fact, for those of you that are dog owners, Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, teaches his clients how to look like the pack leader, They have to stand up straight, look proud, look confident, and they have to have confidence as they have that leash in the hand, because the energy goes directly down into that dog, and they know whether you're confident or not. So it's about physically moving your body around. It's the physiology. You want to get moving. The balance to emotion is motion. So if you're under stress, you need to get your physical body realigned, and you need to get it moving forward. Because all you want to do, what fear does, is it keeps you from taking action. Some of the typical questions that you'll have when you lose focus. What went wrong? Why did this happen to me? Who's to blame? And instead, it's important to turn the questions around and ask different questions. Another example, once again from the space program, since we are here on the Space Coast. The date is April 11th, 1970. The launch of Apollo 13 on its way to the moon. You remember those chilling words? Houston, we have a problem. There'd been an explosion. The fuel, water, and electrical system was shot. Oxygen was leaking out into space. The 3 astronauts were being overcome by carbon monoxide. At least in the movie dramatization, in Mission Control, everybody was panicked. They were running around trying to figure out what went wrong. They were trying to find out what was the blame, what was the cause, because that's how they were trained. And if you saw the movie, you'll remember that Gene Kranz stood up, tugged on his new white vest, and said, "Hold it, gentlemen, hold it. I don't care what went wrong. I need to know what's good in that aircraft. What's good in that aircraft." Because at that moment, it didn't matter what went wrong. It would later, but in that moment, they needed to figure out how to get those 3 astronauts returned safely to Earth when they were thousands of miles away from home. What went wrong didn't matter. What worked was the key to saving their lives. And of course, you know the story. They created a filtering system using one of Jim Lovell's socks to scrub out the carbon monoxide. That gave them the time to create a new return plan that used the lunar engines to slingshot them around the moon and bring them back to Earth. What worked saved their lives. So that's where the questions you ask become very critical in dealing with any crisis that comes up, in dealing with the focus. So the next piece is the fear factor. How many have perhaps one in their life felt fear and they almost totally shut down? Suddenly breathing is hard. You don't want to think about it because it's so scary. It will lock you down. So how do you move through that? Well, there's some ways. There's some techniques that you can use immediately. Change the questions. Another part from my favorite book. What we ask determines what we find. What we find determines how we talk. How we talk determines how we imagine. And how we imagine determines what we will succeed, what we will achieve. If we talk about failure, then we have doubts. If we talk about successes, we talk about possibilities. The questions you ask are far more important than the answers that you get. Because just by asking the question, you begin to shape the thinking of everyone around you. And by asking, so we lost this key contract, what is it that we need to do now to be able to bring in sales? What is it that we can do, perhaps creating additional product lines that we hadn't thought about before? Southwest Airlines, when it first began, only had 4 planes. And they had cash flow crunches. Anyone here have cash flow crunches? They had to sell one of their planes. That means They had only 3 planes, and they already had an established schedules, and they had tickets sold. And so they asked the question, what would it mean if we could actually have the same flight schedule with only 3 planes? How would we do that? Well, one of the first thing they did is they took a look at the standard 1.5 hour turnaround time that every other airline still uses. And they said, what would it look like if we could change that? And that's how they came to the flight attendants cleaning the cabins, that you now board by groups. You don't have individual seats. And by the way, you want to get there early, and you want to get to the front of the line so that you can be sure and get your favorite seat. So they, under crisis, they revolutionized their service. In addition to that, they are the only airlines who hasn't lost money. So because of the crisis, they ask the right questions, and they then became much more successful. Choose your words carefully, very carefully. How many of you are familiar with the book Messages from the Water, Dr. Emoto's research? Okay, a few of you. You're going to want to look at this carefully. Dr. Emoto is in Japan, and he's been researching for over 15 years what is the effect of vibration environment on water's molecular structure. So some of the things he did is he went around and sampled water from different places around the world, and then also took water from a same source and put different labels on them. You'll want to look at this very closely. One of the vials, so let me explain further. So he took the water, he froze them, and then he would slice them very thinly, put them under a microscope, and see what it looked like. So the first one that he did, he took a vial of water and he put the words, "You make me sick, I hate you." As you can see, the water didn't crystallize. In fact, if you could see this close enough, you'd almost see that there's a person here holding a gun. Same source of water, different label. Thank you. It's a beautiful crystal. Again, he's been doing it for over 15 years. Same source of water, different label. Love and appreciation. Think about that. Also, there's a dam that he took water from, and as you can see, it's obviously polluted and it couldn't crystallize. Then a priest came in and blessed it. The water was taken an hour later, and as you can see, it's beautiful. In fact, this is something that they had never seen in 10 years of studying crystals. It has 7 sides to it. Blessing, 1 hour later, same water. We're 70% water, aren't we? Think about that. Let's take it one step further. Heavy metal music doesn't crystallize. And again, think of the noise that you are exposed to every day. And instead, Beethoven's Pastoral. Beautiful crystal. Sometimes when I walk into Circuit City and I hear all this noise blaring, or I walk into a doctor's office and they have CNN talking about all the violence, I just reach up and turn it off. Think about your children. Think about the t-shirts they're wearing. Think about the messages. This is very simple. This is just freezing it and looking at it. We're more complex, but we are 70% water. Choose your words carefully as you ask your questions. Let me show you another example of the impact of words. So I want you to relax and kind of just sit back, and I want you to listen and then to watch the words that appear on the screen. Shame, despair, failure, fool, stupid, struggle, worry, hard, punish. Now I want you to take a couple breaths. Breathing is cleansing. And now, relax again. Listen and read these words. Thank you. Appreciation. Praise. Cherished. Significant. Thoughtful. Trusted. Beautiful. Valued. Anyone notice the difference between the two? Yeah. Again, the power of your words, the power of the words you use with your employees, with your clients, with your children, with your family, with yourself. No regrets is perfect. For the last 3 years, I've gone to the eWomen's National Conference in Dallas. It is mind-blowing. One of the speakers there, superb world-class speakers, Carly Fiorina, former CEO and chairman of Hewlett-Packard, thank you. My mind sees right there. One of the speakers, Stedman Graham, which we all know is Oprah's boyfriend, one of the speakers. Very powerful. One of the speakers that I saw had these phrases. I thought they were so fantastic. I'm adding them to my vocabulary, and I would invite you to also. The first phrase, if I wasn't so smart, this might be a problem. Yeah, I made a stupid mistake, but because I'm smart, we're going to figure it out. I'm a genius. Yes, we lost that key contract, but I'm a genius because we are going to figure this out. I can't believe how great this resignation was because I'm sure I was thinking about something we need to do different in that area. I'm such a genius. If you did know the answer, what would it be? What psychologists and psychiatrists have found when they work with clients, and you may have found it with your children and spouses. So what do you think should happen? So how do you feel about that? I don't know. So what do you think should happen? I don't know. The third time, almost every one of them come back with a solid answer. So on some level, our brain denies knowing it twice, and on the third time it does. So if I did know the answer, what would it be? The third piece of this is now how do you create the structure? So we've talked about how do you refocus your energy in your mind. How to get that fear moved out of your life because you're changing the questions that you're asking. And so now, how do I create a structure? And there we are, we're creating the structure in the moment. How do we create the structure that is going to support us? And sometimes structures can shift dramatically, just like that. And others take a little longer. So think about it. If, in fact, you're a compulsive eater, you need to make sure you don't have food in the house that is tempting to you, because that's not the structure that would make you successful. So some of the things that you can do is it's internal work again. First of all, you need to write down what you want and why. So again, Carol was a perfect prelude to me, which she talks about a home office. And I can lock the door if I need to. And my children have a code because I'm focused. If they really need to talk to me, they touch my shoulder and said, "Mommy, I need to talk to you." So what is it you want? Do you want a home office? Do you want a company? Again, what is it? And again, many of you already know the power of writing it down. If it's up here, it's not a plan. It's not a vision. It's not a focus. You have to write it down, and why. Because the why gets to the passion. It gets to the power. It gets to the juice inside you. And it's hard work. How would you feel? What would it look like? Have you ever had that feeling before? Go back to it Own it. Lock it in. Step 1, you have to write it down. Second 2, it's that implementation plan we keep hearing about. We have to break it down into chunks and we have to put timelines to it. If you don't, it won't happen. But here's some thoughts. You know what you want. You felt it. You're very clear. Okay, what is it you need to start doing, stop doing, change what you do, and also continue doing? And what would that look like? Structures, process, staff? What would that look like? And that's where you're really creating the destiny, the dream. This is what we're looking for. And when you write it down, that allows you then to prioritize it. And with the prioritization, you can break it up into phases. So you can actually have a start and a finish to phase 1, a start and a finish to phase 2, a start and a finish to phase 3. And as a result of that, then you actually have a beginning and an end, as opposed to this long plan that goes 2 years into the future. And what does that mean? That means that you build in milestones and you create celebrations. So think about the children at Special Olympics. When they cross the tape line, everybody is already standing and cheering. Everybody knows what their role is in the celebration. You saw the power of words. Celebration lifts everyone up, and it allows you to just spend a moment feeling the bliss. And then you can get forward, moving again. Third piece is you get 3 for sures out of that phase 1. What are 3 things that you know you can do for sure and move forward on it? Because you've already done it, because it's easy, or because you have a pretty good idea how to begin it. Everything else can wait, but when you get the 3 for sures done, then you can celebrate. And as you know, success breeds success. And that's what you're going for. The third piece. This is where most people fail. Is they can write down what they want and they can plan it out, but they don't have the accountability for it. And by accountability, I mean an outside force that will interrupt your downward spiral. And by accountability, what you want is a group of people that are trained to help you. That can be family, friends. That can be something called a mastermind group, where you get people together that are smart, probably in different areas is very helpful. And you get together and you share problems and issues, and they provide their information on it. Here's what I see, here's what I recommend. And let me tell you what, it's a whole lot easier to deal with their stuff than yours. It's so clear for you looking at their stuff, but it's not looking at your own. Experts. I have a media crisis expert available to me, so if at some point in the future, I have all the contact information, something comes up and it's like we need to respond visually to the media now, I've got her on the phone and she's coaching me through the whole process. So having those experts lined up in advance are important. I have a phenomenal business attorney here in town that I'm now using quite a lot as I'm doing a startup. And so I call him in advance. Okay, this just came up, Jim. Tell me what I should do. And he scripts it out for me. And it's been very successful in the negotiations that we've had. Business coaches. Very good. Now, what I would there's phenomenal coaches out there. I use coaches on an ongoing basis because I can't get outside of my own head, and I need that external intervention and opinion in order for me to move forward. And I obviously coach people in business. So 2 quick examples. One of the women I'm working with is an executive at a internet company. It's a name you'd recognize. And we spent the last 4 months working. She's decided that she needs to move to a bigger company. The company she's with now is about 125 employees because she knows she can't be developed any further. So we've been laying out the networking, clarification. What do you want? Why do you want it? What do you need to do to get it? And then I get an email 2 weeks ago. Hysterical. They have just told me my contract will not be renewed. I don't know what to do. How fast can you talk to me? First thing I did was, okay, so what do you want? What do you really want? She said, well, I don't want to lose my job. I said, no, that's the wrong question. What is it you want? She said, I want to move to a larger company. Why do you want to do that? Because I need to be around people who have worked with more complex situations than I have. I said, okay, what do you need to start doing? Well, I need to disengage emotionally from this organization because I'm giving it kind of everything, even though I'm still looking. I thought we could still work it out here. Okay. What is it you need to continue doing? Well, I need to continue making sure that my contacts and the networking I'm doing and the executive women's group I'm in, I need to let them know now what's happened. Exactly. So in a period of 15 minutes, she's now off the cliff. Off the edge. Off the ledge. So she's off the ledge. She's calm. She's fine. And now we start talking about how to negotiate an outplacement package. Severance and a package to be able to get additional coaching and additional services. She couldn't have done it by herself. If something like that happened to me, I couldn't do it by myself. So that's where outside people can help. Another one of my clients runs her own sales referral development company in Silicon Valley. And she's been trying to get with this one client for 2 years. She finally met him at a networking event, which we choreographed because she knew he'd be there. And he said, I will see you. She emailed him, and he said, I will come and talk to me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. She hadn't prepared exactly what she was going to do because she had some very unique solutions because she knew exactly what his problems were. And she was in a panic about, I have one chance, and if I blow it, it's gone. So again, in an hour, we laid out exactly what to happen. And again, once he started pressing for price, is to say, let me put a package together and I'll come back to you. She didn't. She gave him a price, and it was 30% lower than what she should have gotten. But at least now she has the information on how to do it next time. So that's where if you find people who understand business or whatever it is you're in, they can be very powerful. They can be high value for you. So let's talk about what you've learned. You've learned how to refocus yourself. Again, you're clear with your vision. John Kennedy certainly had a clear one. And then physically, you have to get your body lined up. You have to get the words that you're thinking lined up. You break the fear factor. First of all, you will live. Second is you're going to change the questions you ask. So what is it you're going toward versus what is it you're trying to get away from? You now know the words that you use are so important. And we also took a look at how you can create the structure that you want. Being real clear about what you want and why. Again, that's the internal work. The action plan, which is easy enough to do. But then the accountability. Again, that's the single factor that causes most organizations and people to fail, is they don't have someone holding them accountable. So by the way, if you're in a company and you're doing kind of okay but not good enough, and they're doing kind of okay but not good enough, you're not calling each other on your stuff, you're creating a culture of failure. So that's where the accountability can be internal or it can be external. You've also learned 3 new phrases. If I wasn't so smart, this might be a problem. I'm a genius because I knew I would have anticipated that, and I want to do something different in that area. And if I did know the answer, what would it be? So if some of you are still not feeling totally confident, consider this story from U.S. News and World Report. 50% of the CEOs in the Fortune 500 companies had a C or C minus average in college. 65% of U.S. senators come from the bottom half of school classes. You feeling better already? 75% of the presidents are from the lower half club in school. How you feeling now? So if you did know the answer, what would it be?